Hey, folks, welcome to Phantoms and Monsters Radio. Now, tonight's episode is not about sightings. It's about the moment when something shifts. Now, across decades of reports, across cultures, belief systems, and levels of experience, witnesses describe the exact internal change. A moment when the world does not visibly alter, but the certainty of safety disappears. Not fear at first, recognition, a tightening in the chest, a pressure behind the eyes, a sudden understanding that something is wrong even though nothing can yet be seen. One witness described it like this: "It felt like my instincts woke up before my mind knew why." That response is not imagination. It's not a cultural expectation. It's a nervous system responding to a threat that the conscious mind has not yet identified. Ultraterrestrial encounters differ from UFO sightings or hauntings in one critical way. The danger does not arrive. It's already there. Already observing, already aware, and already waiting for the moment when it's noticed. The appearance of these entities does not group tonight's cases. Their behavior groups them. Observation, evaluation, boundary enforcement, escalation. And in every case where the witness survived, one detail remains consistent. They listened to the warning. Now, as you listen tonight, do not focus on whether you believe these accounts. Focus on whether you recognize the reaction, because belief does not trigger the survival instinct. Recognition does. Now, the unseen ones are among the most disturbing ultraterrestrial intelligence reported, not because of appearance, but because they do not require visibility. Witnesses do not describe an arrival. They describe a realization, a sudden awareness that they are no longer alone, despite nothing in the environment changing. No sound, no movement, and no visible form. Just the presence. Another experiencer explained it this way: the room didn't change, I did. The emotional response is immediate and profound. A loss of privacy that goes beyond physical space. A certainty that something is aware of the witness in a profoundly personal way. Now, among these encounters, a recurring intelligence is identified by experiencers as Uru. Now, Uru is not described as a singular creature in the traditional sense. It is perceived as a dominant awareness, a primary presence associated with the unseen ones. Witnesses who have perceived Uru through dreams, altered states, or remote viewing describe it as tall, thin, emotionally neutral, and intensely focused. The fear associated with Uru is not predatory. It evaluates. Another witness said, "It wasn't angry, it wasn't curious, it was deciding something about me." Once awareness occurs, escalation follows. Witnesses report intrusive thoughts that do not feel self-generated. Sudden emotional surges without cause. A sense of being scanned, measured, cataloged. Another experiencer states, "It felt like being looked at from the inside." Attempts to communicate almost always intensify the encounter. The most chilling realization reported across these cases is this: time wasn't on our side, it was on theirs. Now, the fear of being known, human fear, is rooted in physical harm. Ultraterrestrial fear is rooted in realization that something understands you without revealing itself, and it does not need to act quickly. Now, if you want to know more about Uru, go to phantomsandmonsters.com, and I've got a post there about the unseen ones in Uru and its association with the Chicago Mothman sightings. Now we go from observation to enforcement. This next case did not begin with a visual encounter. A government employee arrived at a dry riverbed in the Illinois Valley to conduct a routine biological survey. The environment appeared normal. The first sensation was physical. It hit me like a pressure wave across my chest. The second attempt intensified the reaction. It wasn't fear yet, it was urgency. On the third attempt, the sensation became overwhelming. His body reacted before his mind could intervene. That is when he saw it. A large, brown, pear-shaped entity over 5 feet tall, motionless, watching. The telepathic message was calm, firm, and unmistakable. Leave. Leave now. Leave this place. The entity did not advance. It did not chase. It enforced a boundary. The fear came afterward. I realized it had been there the entire time. Now, territorial intelligence, this is not predation. It was control of space. When boundaries are invisible. Now, in this third case, this encounter demonstrates deceptive proximity. A cyclist stopped outside a store to unchain his bike when a red SUV pulled unusually close. The driver appeared human, but something about her face was deeply unsettling. She looked young and ancient at the same time, the witness states. When she asked for help, fear surged without explanation. My instincts were screaming before I knew why. Her request was not optional. It was directive. When the witness fled, her reaction was rage. She screamed like I had ruined something. The witness remains convinced that entering the vehicle would have resulted in a disappearance. Theirs. Now, ultra-terrestrial encounters often begin with requests, not forms. Now we go from open space to containment. Now, these encounters exploit the most vulnerable human state, sleep. Witnesses awaken, unable to move, already aware of a presence. I knew it was there before I opened my eyes. The entity did not rush. They observed. They stated it wasn't in a hurry. The paralysis lifts only when the entity withdraws. Danger is not injury. It is demonstration of dominance. But when the safety zones collapse, this was not a single encounter. This was a siege. For 3 years, a child was tormented by an entity resembling a pale teenage boy with black eyes. It could turn invisible, mimic voices, physically interact. They state I knew exactly how far it would go. The final encounter ended with blinding light and pain inflicted on the entity. It screamed like it didn't expect resistance. Now, some entities appear to feed on prolonged fear states, but in the next account, from individual predator to environmental threat. But before we talk about the following report, if you're enjoying tonight's presentation and want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Phantoms and Monsters Radio. It really helps us reach more people who are searching for answers about the unexplained. And make sure to click the notification bells so you won't miss any of our live shows. Next case. Pale crawlers are among the most viscerally disturbing ultra-terrestrial forms reported. Hairless, emaciated, pale in color. But appearance is secondary. Movement is the horror. It crawled like gravity didn't matter. The witnesses described time distortion, chemical panic, and the sense of being surrounded. It slowed down when it knew I saw it. When movement violates biological rules, fear bypasses logic entirely. But when the walls become pathways, figures emerge from a cornfield near a military boarding school. They resemble scarecrows, but they move incorrectly. Witness states like they were remembering how to walk. They demanded a specific individual by name. When dismantled, one contained nothing but hay and cloth. Moments later, another entity crossed distance with impossible speed, injuring a staff member. A vertical beam of light erupted from the field. The figures collapsed. Officials arrived asking questions that suggested foreknowledge. They weren't surprised. They were confirming. This felt like retrieval, not discovery. Now, when reality is actively managed. Now, these encounters involve reality failure. Partial figures emerge, space warps. They state the room was opening into something else. Witnesses experienced nausea, vertigo, and overwhelming dread. It felt like reality wouldn't survive full contact. Full manifestation is not required to dominate the environment. But then we go from breach to conflict. A towering humanoid moved faster than human perception. This was at an Iraq base. Gunfire failed. Local villagers were not surprised. They called it the god of death. They said it was always there. The warehouse was demolished. The activity ceased. Some ultraterrestrials are residents, not invaders, possibly ancient occupants. A child encountered small fur-covered beings who communicated telepathically. He trusted them. That's what scares me now, he said. They implanted a device. When activated years later, the entity returned in panic. They were scared. That's when I knew it was real. Now, across all 10 cases, the same pattern emerged. The warning comes first. The entities do not rush. Boundaries govern escalation. Resistance changes outcomes. The psychological impact lasts. They are not sightings. They are interactions. The reason these encounters stay with people is not what they saw. It's what they expected. The moment when certainty replaces curiosity. The moment when the body knew the truth before the mind could argue. That expectation is the warning. And it is the most crucial detail in every case you heard tonight. Because in every instance where the witness survived, they did not wait for proof. They did not rationalize. They did not stay curious. They left. So if you ever feel that sudden pressure in your chest, that tightening behind your eyes, that's certainty that something is wrong. Please do not dismiss it. Do not debate it. And do not stay. Leave. Because whatever you are sensing has already noticed you. Now, if you experienced anything like this or had an unexplained encounter or sighting, you can send your report to Phantoms and Monsters. And as always, thank you for listening. So let's start with the questions and answers. I'm pretty sure you're going to want some defining answers to some questions about the ultraterrestrials, and that's what I'm here for. So let's go ahead and get this started. Now, I saw some messages on there about the danger episodes, and this was the last one, I will tell you. And the episodes from here on will be longer. This is just something I'm trying to experiment with to see how the audience reacts to it. So it will be a longer session from here on. I promise you that. So please put your questions in caps, and let's see if we can understand this. If you've got questions about the unseen ones at Uru, I can answer those for you. Again, I did make a post on the blog this past week about the unseen ones. I decided to go ahead and not hold back on disclosure. I wanted to get it out there. So Dagnammit asks, have you heard of these tall white humanoid creatures with black out eye sockets and have moved slowly with strange jerky movements? They make audible sounds, but they cannot be video recorded. I don't know about the video recording, but I have heard that people talk about the jerky movements and that same description. In fact, I've had several of those sightings reported to me in different places, actually. But it's indicative of the pale crawlers for the most part, and whatever these things are. Again, I wrote a book about it. I still don't understand what they are, but I'm pretty sure that they're ultra-terrestrial. Next question. Jose Sanchez, what do they call these mischievous spirits, often black in the Eastern world, like Iraq, Iran, and Pakistan? Well, I mean, they could be jinn. I don't know. I don't know if it's probably related to the jinn phenomena, but I have heard soldiers in Iraq mention seeing these types of beings. They looked almost like a shadow. They would dissipate, manifest. I've always thought that they're jinn, but who knows? I mean, there have been a lot of jinn reports since all the fighting started in Iraq, and of course, even when they were did the first Iraq invasion, there were sightings coming out. So, is it jinn? I don't know. Magnus, 28. Lon, do you believe that shadow people or hat men are related to this phenomenon? I don't think so. That's entirely different, I believe. I believe the shadow people, and I think a lot of other researchers believe as well, are otherworldly beings. They may be ultra-terrestrial. Now, an ultra-terrestrial basically is a being that once resided on Earth or still resides on Earth. It's able to use interdimensional travel, able to go into dimensions, able to manifest between dimensions without losing physical form. They shapeshift. They have all kinds of different aspects to them, all supernatural. I mean, you could even apply possibly Bigfoot cryptids and other cryptids as well, like, Dogman, upright canines, cryptid canines, Mothman. The unseen ones are ultra-terrestrial. So if the unseen ones are ultra-terrestrial, the Mothman is definitely ultra-terrestrial. I believe that these beings may have at one time, from information I received, may have been on this planet much earlier and were persecuted. They fear human men because those were the persecutors. Next question. Paranormalism Net. Did Manuel ever have more contact with the winged humanoid he met at the cemetery? Not from what I understand. I don't believe he did. We've had several people who have had contact with these beings. Some did not want to be recognized for having it, but we did hear from others. Dagnammit. Have you ever heard about Denver Airport being a creepy place? I have written about it. There are all kinds of different sightings associated with that airport. Now, I've heard from anywhere from reptilians to other types of otherworldly beings to spirit energy. The artwork is just so bizarre. It's definitely associated with the occult, possibly the Freemasons. There are Freemason references at that airport. Now, I've never been there, but I'm just going by what people have told me. So yeah, it's a creepy place. There's no doubt about that. Paula, what do you think they want? I have no idea. Again, I wrote a book about these beings. It didn't really seem that they knew or even wanted anything. They're almost like they're in the category of the Watchers, which is what I think the winged humanoids are. I think they're sentinels, that they're summoned to protect a certain entity, a certain energy. But for the most part, they just try to scare people away, and the reason they do that seems to be either protection or they're assigned to watch the humans. And I think a lot of these ultra-terrestrials are like that. Jose Sanchez, do the thin walkers have their back leg knees facing in the opposite direction? Uh, I don't think I've had an encounter report that where that was the case. They moved like humans, even though their movements were erratic, unhuman-like for the most part. But they didn't have the opposite knee thing or ankle or whatever you want to call it, like a dog. I mean, or a canine. Sir Wolf Highline. So, what do you think the unseen ones are? It's a matriarchal society, from what we have been told. The females of the species run the show. The winged humanoids that show up on our Earth plane are young males from that species. It's like an initiation. They come here, but we have never been told any type of agenda. Karen Rastatter. Have you heard of ultraterrestrials in the woods during the day and somewhat simmering as they move, or shimmering as they move? Maybe that's an explanation for the Glimmermen. I believe the Glimmermen may very well be an ultraterrestrial. In the book, when the book comes out, and if you read it, you'll notice that I don't ever mention ultraterrestrial in that because I'm not quite sure what they are. But they're watchers. They're definitely watchers. They don't attack people. They just scare people to death. And, not knowing is probably the most fearful thing about them. Any other questions, folks? Okay, I do want to tell you that Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern, I will be interviewing the folks from over at Jersey Shore Entertainment, the people I will be working with, the people who are attempting to develop a Phantoms and Monsters series. So we will discuss that on Wednesday night. If you're interested to hear what they had to say, get an idea of where I'll be coming from on that and what I'll be doing and what they will be doing. And it's going to be very comprehensive, and we're going to go deep. We're going to go as deep as we can. Let's put it that way. We don't have all the answers to what we're going to be doing yet. It's a work in progress. But it's an opportunity to expand Phantoms and Monsters. Put it out there and to demonstrate what I've been trying to do from the very beginning. Okay, folks. Well, I want to thank you for coming this evening. And again, you can make it Wednesday night because a lot of questions will be answered. And the next Friday, we'll have another show. So, again, stay aware, stay safe. And as always, keep looking into the unexplained. Have a great weekend and have a good evening. Good night.